Welcome to Navajo County Connection. My name is Bryan Layton. I'm the Assistant County Manager. And today we're going to talk elections. So to start off, let's do some introductions. If you would, just introduce yourself and how long have you been with the county?
So my name is Michael Sample. I am currently the Navajo County Recorder. I started with Navajo County in 2010 in the Clerk of the Superior Court's office. I was a supervisor there. In April of 2020, I was appointed as the county recorder and then was elected in November of that year for that position.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike.
I'm Christen Haddox. I'm the Navajo County Elections Coordinator, and I've been with the county for 6 years.
Thanks, Kristen.
And I'm Donna Hurstrom. I'm the Chief Deputy Recorder, and I've been with the county since 2007 and with the Recorder's Office since 2020.
Fantastic. So all of you have a very important role in our elections process, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So Mike, let's start with you. There's a lot of different steps involved in conducting an election, right? Tell us about the role that the Recorder's Office plays in elections here in Navajo County.
Yes, sir. So in Navajo County, the Elections Department and the Recorder's Office are two separate departments. So what the Recorder's Office does, not only are we responsible for recording public documents, but we also are considered the voter registrar in Navajo County. So we're responsible for voter registration, getting everybody registered to vote. And also we are in charge of early voting as well. So sending everybody, if you're on the early voting list, we'll send out your early ballots or provide early voting locations throughout Navajo County.
Great. And so after early elections, that's when the elections department kicks into gear, right?
Yeah, so we take over, the early ballots are transferred to the elections department for tabulation. We have a central count here in Navajo County, so we tabulate all the ballots in our Holbrook office.
Great. So when we think about elections, a lot of us may just think of like the big presidential elections or a governor's election. But actually we conduct elections throughout the year, right? For different agencies and different purposes. Can you tell us a little bit about those? So
we have lots of special districts here in Navajo County. We have domestic water improvement districts, fire districts, sanitary, districts that we conduct elections for their board positions throughout the year.
Okay. And we have a big election coming up this year, right? In November?
Well, we have our primary in August and then the general election in November. And I'll let Donna tell us what elections or what positions are up for election this year.
Okay, so
there's a lot of them, right?
There are a lot this year.
Okay.
So it's for the federal, we have U.S. Senator, U.S. Representatives in Congress. For the state, we have the governor, state senator, state representative, secretary of state, attorney general, state treasurer, state mine inspector, superintendent of public instruction, corporate commissioners. And for the county, we have the clerk of the Superior Court. We have Superior Court judge for Division 1, justice of the peace, and constables for districts 1 through 6.
Okay, fantastic. And there's multiple ways that folks can vote. You mentioned early voting. Tell us a little bit about that. You have drop-off ballots, you can mail it in.
Yes, sir. So early voting actually starts July 6th up for this August 2nd primary election. So if anybody chooses to vote early, you can go vote early in person at our mobile voting sites. You can go to the county recorder's office through the early voting timeline and vote there in person as well. If you're on the active early voting list, which means you're on a list to be mailed an early ballot, you'd be mailed out a ballot, and then you can choose to vote that ballot and mail it back to our office, take it to a drop box and drop it at one of our local drop boxes that we have throughout the county. Or if you choose, you can take it on election day and drop it in at the polling location at their drop box there. Or if you choose not to vote it, and you can still go vote in person on election day. And once you vote that automatically cancels the ballot that we mailed you. So there's no question whether they got a ballot and then they went and vote in person. Whichever you vote first will be the one that's counted.
Okay, so lots of different avenues to get out and vote.
Yes, sir.
You were talking to us before the show started about how many ballots come in early for early votes. Tell us a little bit about that, because early voting is very popular here in Navajo County, right?
It is, and I think due to COVID in the last 2020 election, that probably helped those numbers increase. So in the last election, we had slightly over 32,000 early voting ballots that came to our office. So there is a process that we have to do, whether you drop it off at a drop box. We have a process that we have 2 people from each party that goes and picks them up on a daily basis. We have what do they call them, chain of custody forms that we have to do and take them to our office. Once we get to our office, they're placed in a secure vault, and then our staff has to take each one of those ballots individually and verify that the person who actually voted that and signed it, their signature has to match what we have on file for them on their voter registration form. So if their signature does not match, then our staff has to try to contact that voter and say, look, we cannot accept your ballot because your signature did not match. So you either have an option of getting another early ballot mailed to you, or you can come in person, or go on election day to vote. So that's the process. It's pretty secure, and we are all certified by the Secretary of State's office and election or signature verification. We also have another training coming up next week for all our staff as well. So there's a process that, unless you're involved in it, you really don't know what that process is, but it's a pretty good process on how we do things. And then once we batch those and verify signature, then like Christen said, those go up to elections. We don't open the affidavit envelopes or anything in the recorder's office. That goes up to the elections department to be tabulated.
Okay. So lots of different sets of eyes at each step, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Well, fantastic. So if someone's not registered, when is the deadline to register, and how would they do that?
So the deadline to register is June 5th, the actual day before early voting starts. You can either, there's several options. You can go to online, Service Arizona.
July.
What did I say? June? I'm sorry, my apologies. July 5th. Time is going by so fast. July 5th. But you can go to servicearizona.com and you can register that online. We do carry voter registration forms at your local libraries, your local post offices. If you want to fill out the paper, mail it to our office, you can do that as well. If you go to MBD to update your driver's license, you can register to vote while you do that as well.
Okay, well, great. So every year we look for election workers, right? Tell us about like what an election worker does and how do they really help in this whole process?
So we staff 39 vote centers from Kayenta to Cibecue. We are well underway of filling those positions right now. We have several different positions available. We have an inspector who's in charge of the election board, a marshal who helps the inspector keep order. We have an ID judge who checks people's ID, and then a ballot judge who hands out the correct ballot to the voter. We also have a provisional clerk that helps with our provisional voters. We have extra staff on hand to help with things that have come up in the last couple years since COVID, so helping us keep everything sanitized, helping us watch our parking lot for those voters who might have mobility issues coming into the vote center, so we want to be watching out for all of that. We have a great pool of people that we're choosing from this year. A lot of people have stepped up to be poll workers this year, but we're always looking for people. You never know what's going to happen, so we like to also have a strong alternate list. So you can apply on our website at navajocountyaz.gov and go to the elections department, and there is a menu option to fill out an election board worker application, and that will get you on our mailing list and get you information about upcoming trainings and the things that we have available for training.
Okay. So when you say ID judge, that could sound a little intimidating to some folks, but it's not real intimidating, is it? You provide training and help to go through? Yeah,
so we provide step-by-step instructions for every single position on our board. So it should be very easy on election day to know exactly what you need to be doing. You get training before the election, and again, step-by-step instructions on election day. So.
And what kind of time commitment can someone expect if they want to help out an election site?
So the training, the pre-election training is about 3 hours. And then we do a pre-election meeting the night before the election. So that's going to be a couple of hours. And then election day is a long day. So we ask our poll workers to be there by 5:30 a.m. so that they're ready for their first voter at 6 a.m. Then the polls close at 7 p.m. And then it takes a couple hours to do the closing paperwork and wait for the sheriff's deputy to come by and pick up your supplies. So election day is a very long day.
Okay. It sounds fun. It sounds exciting to be a part of that process.
Absolutely.
So we were talking about multiple eyes being on ballots and whatnot. You mentioned deputies coming by at the end of the day. Tell us a little bit about that and how the ballot goes from the election center back to the elections department.
So all of our ballots are picked up from our vote centers at the end of election day by Navajo County Sheriff's deputies. And they complete a chain of custody document with the inspector. Again, the inspector is the person that's in charge of the vote center, so that we check the seals with the sheriff's deputy and the inspector, and then we check them again when those ballots get back to Central Count in Holbrook. And a sheriff's deputy is going to be picking up anywhere from 3 to 5 vote centers. So we have several routes around the county, and we get all of those back election night.
Okay. And so when the deputy brings those ballots into the election center, tell us a little bit about that. Where do things progress from there?
So the ballots come into our election center. We have a receiving board that, again, is checking that chain of custody, checking those seals to make sure that those ballots, were sealed through their entire trip from the vote center to our central count. Then they're brought into the tabulation room, which is streaming online, so you can watch us on election night and see everything that's going on. We open up the ballot bags on camera. We pull everything out. We prepare the ballots for tabulation. We use 2 tabulators, so those are both going on election night. And again, those are all on camera streaming so that you can watch us until we're all finished. We never leave until every single election day ballot is tabulated.
And you have others there in the room as well, right?
Yeah, so there's election staff. We have a receiving board in the back that's receiving the ballots coming in. There's also another receiving board inside the tabulation room that's checking off everything that's coming out of the ballot bags, documenting everything, checking seals, checking chain of custody.
Fantastic.
Observers.
And also observers, yeah.
Okay, from the different parties, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, great. Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's go back to the recorder's office just a little bit. The recorder's office, you handle voter registration in the early voting, but you're busy year-round, right? And so, how do you prepare for the elections, and what are you doing during off-election cycle?
So we have in our election department, we have our voter outreach specialist. She goes out and does different voter registration drives throughout the county during the year when there's not an election. We go to the schools, educate the kids in the schools that are like turning 18 or whatever, how to register to vote. Some that are eligible to register, we'll register them. So we do different things throughout the year to process that. There's a lot of training that we have to do. It's nonstop, right, Donna? There's always registration forms. People moving into Navajo County, people moving within Navajo County that have to re-register. So there's a process all year long, regardless if it's an election year or not. Right now, being an election year, it's actually really crazy busy right now. But even during the off seasons or off years, we stay busy processing voter registration forms and then going out there and doing registration drives and so forth.
Well, and Donna, talk to us a little bit about if someone does move, when do they need to re-register? When do they just need to update their information?
They need to re-register if they move their physical address. They need to actually fill out another registration form and get that to our office. If it's a matter of a mailing address, that they can do over the phone with us. We can do that over the phone, but a physical address has to be done with a registration form. If they want to change their party affiliation, that would have to be done with a voter registration form. So those are things we can't do over the phone. They have to be in writing and signed on a voter registration form.
Okay, great. And for the elections department, you have other elections that you do during the year as well. But what do you do kind of during the downtime between elections? What are you keeping busy with?
So during the off-election years, my main project is doing a premium certification class for our poll workers. So we like to have a little bit more time with our poll workers when we're not conducting elections, so we can talk more about why we do the things we do, election law, what our sources for election law are. It's an 8-hour class, so we can spend the whole day really getting into the details of elections. So that's my biggest project on the off-election years. But then again, we're conducting special district elections. We are constantly maintaining our equipment and making sure that it's stored correctly and that it's
properly inventoried and
that we're keeping the inventory. We have a warehouse where we have all of our election equipment and supplies, and so we always want to make sure that we're keeping up on supplies, and it's a year-round job for sure.
Fantastic. And in the recorder's office, we've had some exciting news lately, some new innovations regarding kiosks. Mike, Donna, do you want to share a little bit about what that means for our community in improving access?
So currently, the only place to record a document is at the recorder's office at the Main County Complex in Holbrook. So earlier, well, I guess it was last year already, the idea was, why don't we put kiosks out throughout the county? And a kiosk it's basically a computer with a camera on it. And we're going to be placing those. We're going to be placing one in Winslow at the Winslow Health Department, the Sholo Health Department here, the Heber Health Department, and at the county building in Pinetop Lakeside, and at the Snowflake Justice Court. So people, instead of having to drive to Holbrook, they can go into those local offices. We have a desk set up, the kiosk will be set up, and they can just go and they can click on it. It'll contact our department. They can speak to a live clerk from our department. We can walk them through the process. There's a camera there that they would put their document on, and it takes a picture of it and uploads it to our clerk, and we can process it, and it'll save them a trip of having to drive all the way to Holbrook to do that. So this is something new and exciting. We're implementing, getting them put out now. We're working with IT to get those set up. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll get those up and running now. Right, Donna?
Yep.
Anything else on those?
No, I think that's about it, but we're really excited about it. So.
Well, that's great. It doesn't sound like there needs to be anyone that's intimidated by that, because they can get somebody right on the line that can help walk them through it step by step.
Right, yeah. And we've practiced with it, so it's
Yes.
pretty simple. So if I can do it, I think the general public should be able to go in.
Well, and the thought
do
behind it is just to expand our counter. They will be talking with the same person at the counter that is if they came in person. So it's expanding our counter throughout the county. So
That's really great.
it is really exciting.
Okay, so what did I miss? What more do we want to add here about elections and the whole process?
Well, we do. In the primary election, you're voting for your party. You're voting for which candidate you want to represent your party in these various positions. If you happen to be an independent voter or a party not designated, and you want to vote in either of those parties, the Republican or Democrat Party, you need to contact our office and let us know which ballot you want to receive. So if we don't hear, we will not send a ballot, and this is for the active early voters. We would not send a ballot to an independent voter unless they've let us know that they want one or the other. They can choose which one they want to vote in. And on election day, you can choose which one, but to have it sent to you, you need to contact our office.
For the primary election.
Yeah, for the primary.
And then also, so I mentioned earlier, we have a mobile voting trailer that we use for voter registration drives. We will also be utilizing that for our early voting process as well. So our mobile unit will be in different areas throughout the county during our early voting time frame. And so in this area, and I'll read off the times here, and we're going to be at the Snowflake Our Lady of the Snow Flea Market parking lot there. We're going to be there on July 18th and 19th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will be at the Heber County Complex July 20th from 10 to 3. The Cibecue Community Building July 21st. Whiteriver Flea Market July 22nd. Again, 10 to 3. And then here in Sholo at the City Hall across the street here for the whole week of July 11th through the 15th. You can also go, if you're going to be in the Holbrook area, the recorder's office will be open for early voting July 6th through July 29th. So if anybody wants to do early voting, they can do it at those locations during that time frame. Again, early voting ends July 29th. If you want to go to a site or to the recorder's office, it does end July 29th. And then the last day to request an early ballot by mail is July 22nd. So I'll just kind of go over the dates. Last day to register is July 5th, and then early voting begins July 6th. Last day to request a ballot is July 22nd, and then the early voting ends July 29th. And then if people have any questions, they can call our office, or they can go to navajocountyaz.gov to our website. Our website has a list of all our early voting locations, as well as all our drop boxes throughout the county. So if they have any questions, they can go there or give us a call, and our staff would be more than happy to help them with anything.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. We appreciate your teams. We appreciate the dedication that you have and how careful you are step by step, trying to ensure a proper elections process and the integrity of that process. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Navajo County Connection. Thank you for watching.